Hello, folks. It's Sunday. Welcome to Land Timber Stream. Hope you're having a good rest of your weekend. I certainly have been enjoying myself. Yeah, we've got show IP interface brief. Showed up a little early here in the chat. Good job today, buddy, on your labbing. Looks like he's done a lot of work today on VPN or NAT and MPLS, which is great. Good job, dude. Thanks for stopping in, saying hello. Appreciate it. I've done some work today, not 8 hours worth, but I have made some progress today. I'm on day 354, and the title today is "When Should I Take the Lab Exam?" It has been a topic of discussion in the Land Timber household for sure. But yeah, yesterday I missed the stream because I don't know if y'all have seen this. There's a series that came out on Netflix that I had actually watched during my breaks, getting ready for the written, and it is, well, the hashtag is convert. It's this way of like tidying up, and it's pretty addictive. It's pretty cool. So I got involved in that. We got involved in that yesterday, and I went through like, I didn't think I had a lot of stuff, but I went through a bunch of like clothing and ended up with bags. And anyway, it ended up taking longer than I expected, and so that was a little bit of a distraction. I did do some studying though yesterday for at least I'd say a couple of good hours of study, reviewing my written fail notes. I actually did today as well, a couple hours. Did a few small little labs just to get some packet captures and verify some things. And I am probably a third of the way through my notes, if that. Yeah, probably a third. And so far, it looks like a number of the questions that I wasn't sure about, I did get right, and some wrong. And I was able to verify some of that information, which is good. I'll get into why that's important in a minute. I've got two videos upcoming. One is how to pass a written exam, and it's kind of, well, I've been getting questions about it from people, and what materials did you use, etc. So I've prepared an outline for that, and I will probably be doing that, uploading that video in the next couple of days. I haven't done it yet. One, because I'm going to do a video about this testing experience. Not all of it is going to be positive feedback. There is going to be some constructive criticism, and I wanted to make sure to be honest, I want to make sure my score got certified before, because you always get a preliminary score report. Well, hey, how's it going, Casada? Good to see you. Good to see you. So yeah, just to be honest, I don't know how it's going to be taken, but I did make sure that my score report is marked as valid. And for some reason, I think it was just an issue with Safari. You get your preliminary score report, and then in the instructions, it says you can go to pearsonview.com/validate. And that came up fine. I'd go in, I put in my validation ID, my Cisco registration ID in there, and it would say servers unavailable. I mean, it's supposed to be validated. They say it can take up to 72 hours. I finally just used a different browser, Chrome, and it worked fine. So yeah, my results are validated, but anyway, I've been waiting for that, but I have written out sort of my outline on the content of those videos, so I'm ready to record them. Just a matter of doing a record. I may do it this evening or tomorrow, and then upload those. But this is so far my lab plan going forward. Again, as I mentioned, I have unfinished business with the written. I'll confirm official score done, reviewing the fail notes, studying the areas missed. That is well underway. And again, like I said, I did a few labs, some packet captures earlier today. I did a few labs yesterday. Again, we're talking just like 2 routers or a couple switches or things like that. But the thing to keep in mind with the written is that it's going to be something that will be a part of, it's going to come up again and again and again, right? Because the couple reasons. One, once you obtain that number, you get the CCIE. you're required to recertify every 2 years. Now, there are other ways of recertifying besides just taking the written again. And there is, like, they do give you sort of a grace period. You can have your CCIE suspended if you allow 2 years to elapse. And I don't know all the details because I'm not there yet. I'm not too concerned about that at this point. But you can get a grace period. But a very common way people recertify their CCIE is to just retake the written, and that counts as sufficient credit to recertify as a CCIE. So the written's going to be coming around again. The other thing, worst case scenarios, I was mentioning on Discord a little while ago, is that as of now, the written is good for 3 years. In other words, I can be a CCIE lab candidate, which is really the only thing you get from the written. That gives you approval to schedule and book a lab exam. Without that, candidate ID number, you cannot even book the exam. So that's all it really gives you, and besides, of course, knowledge. But you get, you can't just dally around. They're going to give you 18 months before, so it's conditional. It's 3 years conditional. Conditional on that, you have to take the lab, you have to attempt it within 18 months. And then thereafter, I think you have 12 months if you fail to attempt it again. So I think you can, and that will maintain the status of your written exam up to 3 years. And then you just have to retake it again. Show says, family's coming home, so I'm off to go to dinner. Good job on the written. I'll see you in a little over a week. Okay, Show. Sounds good, man. Looking forward to it. And good job today, buddy. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. So, yeah, it's very important. So I'm taking the approach that, a couple of things. One is that I really need to understand what I missed because I need to be prepared to take it again. And, of course, in 3 years or in 18 months, whatever the case may be, the written will be changed. Very likely it will be Evolving Technologies 1. Something else, or it may be the program may be revamped altogether. The last revamp of the CCI routing and switching was 5.1, and that's been now a minute. It's been a minute. So, there's no reason to not expect that there will be a 5.2 at some point and other changes. Honestly, there are some things I see in the blueprint today that I think, well, that's kind of, outdated. Anyway, the point is, I've spent a lot of time working on the knowledge that I have to pass written. I need to maintain that knowledge and not just say, okay, done with the written, over with, on to the lab. Let's just lab and be done with it. No, that's not the approach I'm taking. So, and I'll go ahead and jump on number 4, which is flashcards. So my one thing I should have done differently is reviewing my information in a lot more systematic way. So I scrambled a lot on actual review towards the end. Like I did a lot of learning, but I did not do enough review in the meantime. So my approach going forward is, to utilize flashcards, mine and also new ones. Like I've added flashcards since even doing in the last couple of days, I've added some new ones. I'm going to continue to review that in a more, routine fashion, so that's going to really help with retention, with memory retention. So I plan to just do review cards, review flashcards every day. Not a lot of time, but at least a few minutes. And I'm going to try to retain as much of that knowledge as I can going forward, right? And just build on it. But number 2, set an arbitrary date and book the lab. Is it easier to reschedule? I'm not sure about that. Obviously, the travel is not. But I think that, I have no problem going ahead and preliminarily booking a lab date. And that's probably going to happen soon. We talked about it today. The family talked today about our goals, 2019, et cetera, and beyond. And one thing that came out of that is we're going to tentatively probably book for December with confidence, with the option to move that up. But I'll probably, be booking that here in the next few weeks, just to have a date there of something I'm working towards, and to keep me on schedule, keep me on track. That's one of the tools, right? To help keep yourself on track. And then once those two things are done, including the written study, which will probably be another 3 or 4 days, maybe, then I'm going to resume the I&E Advanced Technology workbook. And I'm going to pretty much continue the same schedule I have now, or I have had for the written. That's not going to change a lot, except I'll be doing a lot more labbing versus just, reading and watching videos and things like that. Although I will be doing more of that intermittently. And then, of course, as I mentioned, flashcards. As I learn things, I think what I'm going to do is I may create a different flashcard set for the written. I'm sorry, I'm going to separate kind of the written and the lab, because what's going to happen with the lab is I know it's going to be really important to remember commands and remember configurations. And eventually, by the time the lab attempt comes around, to be able to write those out just with pen and paper, I should be able to configure, multi-protocol BGP with multiple customer networks on paper. So that's going to require a lot of memorization. And Casadix has a question: how much time in a day do you spend studying? Not enough. There's going to be some shifting. One thing that we talked about here at the household is our gym schedule. So that's going to be changing. So I'm actually going to go earlier. I've been going at 6 a.m. I'm going to actually go at 5 a.m. So more of my study is going to happen in the morning, which is good. I'm actually fresher in the morning than in the evening. And then I'll probably spend a little time in the evening, so there'll probably be some labbing and study in the morning, a little more in the morning than it is now. And I'm thinking daily, we're probably talking 2 to 3 or more, depending on. So at a minimum, hopefully like 2 hours a day, except Fridays. Fridays I'm off. But basically Saturday through Thursday. On work days, 2 to 3 hours. And then on weekends, it will vary, but Saturday will be a big day. Not as big a day, but Sunday will be a very big day. Sunday, hopefully 8 hours. And then Saturdays, maybe like, 5 to 6 hours. So that's what I'm looking at. That will change, of course, as I get closer to the actual lab, just as it did for the written. There'll probably be vacation time taken, and then I'll take like 12-hour days. Prior to the written, I did essentially, except for 2.5 days there was a gap of 2.5 days for holiday travel. I did 2.5 weeks of 12 to 14-hour days. So there'll be intense times, like that. But yeah, that is my plan going forward. And, it's starting to congeal. I don't want to lose any momentum, just want to keep on going, right? Trivia question of the day I came up with is: how frequently are CDP messages generated? Wow, yeah, it's intense, and true enough, Casadix, it's very intense, but it's what has to be done, right? It's a big commitment, but nothing short of that is really going to get it done, to be honest. So yeah, CDP messages, how often are they generated? Any idea on that, folks? It's funny, sometimes as an impatient network engineer, as I am, I would often make changes, especially working with like switches and deploying a bunch of switches, maybe at an office. Sometimes I would get very impatient with CDP because it would not be often enough. And even in labs, when I'm labbing anything related to CDP, I will often change Cosmetics, your guess is 10 seconds. I wish. Sometimes I'll change them to 10. But CDP is one of those things that, it's not really considered mission critical traffic, of course. And so right now it's 60 seconds is the default for CDP. But when you're labbing, among other things, when you're labbing or when you're in the middle of a deployment and you're just, deploying a bunch of switches, you might want to increase it. As long as you remember to go back and change it to its default, there's really no need to be more than 10 seconds or 60. But 60 seconds is a default for CDP. So, meat chunks, the only thing I have, folks, I haven't seen actually a lot of links or blogs or anything, to be honest, on Twitter. People are still, I think, recovering from the holidays, and that will pick up, though. You'll start to see people pick back up to normal pace. People are getting back to work this week. So, not a lot of new content out there, including from me. So I do want to endorse my friend Dimitri, though. He is back on schedule, of course. He did a stream earlier today. I missed it, but I will probably go back and watch the video because it was on NetConf. It was on some good network programmability stuff. So I highly recommend his channel if you haven't subbed already or followed. Definitely check him out on Twitch and, of course, on YouTube. So that's going to be it, folks. Again, not a lot of interesting things to show. I will be posting on Instagram some different screenshots from some of the different packet captures I've been doing. Found a few interesting things, and some of them are completely indirectly related at all to test questions. They're just, I peripherally studied some different topics and and gone down a little bit of a rabbit hole on other things and let me go capture that. So anyway, those will be coming up. You can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, and of course here. And if you have an Amazon Prime account, they give you one free Twitch Prime sub that you can use that expires every 30 days. Feel free to hit that sub button, use that here if it's just sitting around. And thanks so much for tuning in, folks. Good to see everybody in the chat. Wish y'all a great rest of the weekend, and we shall see you back here. Same time, you know the place. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be back here again on the Land Tamer stream. Thanks so much, folks.